All right, so we're going to go over a few examples, okay? So, number 3. All right, so when we are doing the discriminant, what we need to do, the first thing we need to do is make sure that we're in standard form, okay? And we're set equal to 0. So, step 1, set equal to 0 / make sure we are in standard form. Okay, so in number 3, we are in standard form and we are set equal to 0. So step 2 is then to label A, B, and C. So in this case, remember, this is standard form and this will help you label A, B, and C. So remember, when we label A, B, and C, they're only numbers, okay? We never take the n, we never take the x, whatever variable is there, it's only ever the number. So in this case, A is 10. B, now here, we just have a negative sign. Remember, we always assume that after the negative sign, there's a 1. So B will be -1, and always take the sign in front. And lastly, C is -3. Okay, so now that we have labeled A, B, and C, we're all set. What we're going to do is write down the discriminant. Write down the discriminant. And what the discriminant is B squared minus 4AC. So that's the form we're going to use. Okay, step 4 is then to plug A, B, and C back, or A, B, and C, not back in, but A, B, and C into discriminant. Okay, so I'm going to do them in colors because I think that'll, in the colors that I wrote on the right side. So the first thing I need to do is I need to plug in -1 for B. Now, super important to remember that you are always going to put parentheses around whatever number we plug in. Okay, so B squared, I'm plugging in the parentheses, I'm putting in a -1, okay? I'm going to keep the -4 in black ink because that's always going to be there. That's part of my discriminant form, okay? Then I'm going to plug in 10 for A, and C is -3, and I'm going to use my colors, okay? So I've plugged back in. Step 5 is then to square the first number. So we're going to work on just squaring here. So when we square, we're a -1. We're really saying -1 times -1. And a -1 times a -1 is a +1. Okay? So we have squared. That's step 5. Then step 6 is we are going to multiply the remaining 3 numbers. Okay, and what I mean by multiplying the remaining 3 numbers is these last 3. So I'm going to box them in yellow. Okay, so we're going to look at that. And how you can do this to make it simpler on yourself is just multiply the first 2 numbers, and then when you get an answer, multiply that by the 3rd number. So what I mean by that is multiply your first 2 numbers. So -4 times 10 gives me a -40. Okay? Then bring this down and multiply -40 by -3. Okay, so I multiplied the first 2 numbers, and then I got an answer, and I'm multiplying that answer by the 3rd number. So -40 times -3 gives me a +120. Okay, and then your last step is, well, step 7 is to add, or in other ways, subtract. Okay, so 1 plus 120 equals 121. All right, and then your last step is to write the number of real solutions. Okay, and remember that you have to refer back to your notes from yesterday. So when I have a positive number, that means I have 2 real solutions. Okay, so these are your answers. the number answer and then you telling how many solutions from that answer. Okay? So that's number 3. And then you said we also need number 5. So I'm going to scroll down to number 5. All right, we're going to follow the same exact steps for every single problem. So when I'm looking at number 5, my first step is to set it equal to 0. In this case, it is not set equal to 0. I need to get this -3 to this side. And how I do that is I'm going to add 3 to both sides. Okay? Whatever I add to one side of the equal sign, I have to add to the other. Okay? So, in this case, I need to drop down my 4k squared. I'm going to drop down my -k. And now I need to combine these like terms. So, -6 plus 3 is -3. And this side, on this side, this will cancel out, and now we are equal to 0. Okay? So we are now set equal to 0. Now we are going to use this equation to label my A, B, and C. So A equals 4. B, now there's no number, so I'm assuming it's 1. So B equals -1. And C equals -3. Okay, so now that I've labeled A, B, and C, I can go ahead and write down the discriminant form. So this is always what you're writing down for that step. And then we can just plug in. So I'm going to use the same colors like I did before to help you see this. So B is -1. So in parentheses, I'm plugging in a -1. Minus 4, which is always, I'm going to actually write that in red because I have the other colors, okay? And now I'm plugging in A. A is 4. And then I'm going to plug in C, which in this case is -3. Okay? So then I need to break it down again. So, we need to work on just this part first. Okay, so we are just working on the squared part. So, -1 squared is -1, is like saying -1 times -1. So -1 times -1 is a +1. Okay? Then we need to go ahead and the next step is to multiply these 3 numbers by each other. So, like I said before, we're going to multiply the first 2, and then we're going to get an answer and multiply it to the third. Okay? So the first thing we're going to do is -4 times 4, which gives me a -16. Then I'm going to drop this down and multiply by a -3. So now I'm looking here. -16 times -3 is 64. Okay? So plus 64. Okay? And 1 plus 64 is 65. Okay? And because we have a positive number, it's 2 real solutions. So if you have to pause and go back, pause and go back, okay? I'm going to go on to the next page for 7 and 10. All right, so let's look at number 7. So first step is to get this into standard form and set equal to 0. I need to get this 1 to this side, okay? So what I need to do is I need to subtract 1 from both sides. Now, this side does not have a like term with 1, but that's okay. We are just going to put it at the end, okay? So we are not combining anything with that -1. It's just going to float at the end. And then we're going to bring everything else down. So I have a -8n squared, a +9n, and now I can bring my -1 down. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So now I'm set equal to 0. Okay? So now I'm going to use this form, this quadratic equation, to label my A, B, and C. So A equals -8. B equals a +9. And C equals a -1. Once I've labeled A, B, and C, I'm going to go ahead and write down b squared minus 4ac. Okay? And then I can go ahead and plug in. So I'm going to use my colors to plug back in. So b is 9. So I'm using blue. And notice my parentheses. I'm going to keep the -4 in black because that's in every single problem. And then I need to multiply by a, which is -8, and c, which is -1. Okay? So now we are just going to focus on this 9 squared, which is saying 9 times 9, okay? And 9 times 9 is 81. Sorry, I wanted to write it in blue. Is 81, okay? The next step is then to work on these three numbers. So we need to multiply these three numbers to themselves, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to multiply the first two numbers, which gives me -4 times -8 gives me a positive 32. Okay, I'm going to actually take that positive sign away. Gives me a positive 32. Then I need to bring this -1 down and multiply 32 times -1, which gives me a -32. And then all I need to do from there is subtract. So 81 minus 32, which gives me 49. And this is two real solutions. Okay? And then I'm going to also do number 10. So, in this case, we have a lot of things to move from there to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it over here just so I have more room. Okay? I don't have much room to move things. Just rewriting the problem down. So I need to move everything from the right side to the left. So I'm going to do this piece by piece. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract an 8n from both sides. Okay? I'm going to split the equal sign in half. Now, when I come over to this side to write down my -8n, I have to notice that there is no like terms here. Okay? So I'm just going to put it in the middle because I want my single variable term to be there. Okay? So I'm just going to squeeze it in here. Okay? Then I need to go to the next term. I need to add 8n squared to both sides. And here I'm putting that under the like term with a -4n squared. Okay? And then lastly, I need to add 1 to both sides. And I'm going to put that under the 3 because those are like terms. Okay? Now, this whole right side will cancel out to equal 0. All right, and now what we need to do is just combine like terms on the left side. So, my first set of like terms is here. -4n squared plus 8n squared gives me a positive 4n squared. Then, because this -8n doesn't have any like terms, I'm just going to bring that down. So I'm going to say -8n. All right. And then finally, we need to combine these like terms, which is 3 plus 1, and gives me a positive 4. So now I am in standard form, and I am set equal to 0. So I can go ahead and label A, B, and C. So A is 4. B is -8. And C is positive 4. Okay? And then we're going to write down our form, our discriminant, and we're just going to plug in. Okay? So in this case, B is -8. So in parentheses, I'm writing -8 squared. Okay? I'm keeping the 4 in black, and then we're going to write down our other numbers. So A, which is 4, and C, which is also 4. Okay? So then we just need to focus on the -8 squared. Okay? And -8 squared gives me, which is saying -8 times -8, multiplies to give me 64, a positive 64. Okay? And then I need to focus on these numbers over here. All right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to multiply the first two numbers, which -4 times 4 gives me a -16. And then I'm going to bring this 4 down here. Okay? And we are going to multiply 16 times 4. Okay? And we have a negative. So a -16 times a +4 gives me a -64. And here, 64 minus 64 gives me 0. And when my answer is 0, I have one real solution. Okay? So that's how you would complete problems like that. So if you need any help, let me know.